To call the meeting to order for Monday, October 30th, 2023 at 6:03 p.m. If everyone could please stand, face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Susan, could you please do roll call?
I will. Hetmer,
Here?
Reardon, Wal,
I was going to say excused.
excused, okay. Walsh,
Present.
Andres,
Present.
Stasinski,
Present.
Layton, LaRose, present.
Thank you, Susan.
You're very welcome.
All right, the agenda. Could everyone please review for any conflict of interest? All right, seems to be no conflict of interest. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda for Monday, October 30th, 2023.
Second.
All right, motion made by Layton, second by Walsh. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. On to public comment. Looks like we have some public. Would anyone like to say anything?
I would like to know what the youth of America are doing here.
Awesome.
Next class.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming and partaking. All right. So the approval of the minutes for September 18, 2023, they were online. Doesn't look like they made it in printed version in front of us. Was everyone able to take a look at those prior? Couple?
How'd they look?
Yeah, I looked at them. Well, you want to look at them? Really?
I didn't see anything concerning to me, but I want to make it fair for everyone if they want
I
to.
believe in you.
I got them here, too.
You got them too?
Okay.
Yeah.
Susan, did you want to browse through it? Someone with a printed copy real
I
quick?
printed it
Yeah,
out.
I just won't make the motion.
Since I have the minutes, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Very good.
Motion by Walsh, second by Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, correspondences. I do not believe there were any since our last meeting. Reports. Treasurer's report. Garrison's not here. Would Sarah or someone?
Well, you have
Maybe fill in.
yeah, you have the written report was in your packet for the last month. I don't know if anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns.
Yeah, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary.
Yeah, most of them are all project related from your consultants.
Okay.
So either Arbutus or Bucket Writer.
Yep. Does anyone have any further questions on the treasurer's report? All right. Moving on, community garden, is there anything from Susan or Corey? New updates?
Well, I'm hoping November we can put that on the agenda. I did send to Brian, so I haven't had a chance to talk with them
I
to,
got it sent back to you today where you can edit it. I saw, it looked like it was marked up, and I made those changes in it when I sent it back to you. So should have all your notes already included in it, and then you can edit it, from there.
Okay, because I sent you two. One was just notes, handwritten notes of the changes in red, and then I sent you the actual form that.
Okay. And
Sarah
and I went to the actual website too, where you pulled
Oh,
it
did
from
you?
too, so
Okay.
I was able to
Great, and which one
verify.
was that I sent you?
I'd have to pull it up
Is
on the
either
phone.
Gardner information or Gardner's guidelines. So so I was going to see your quality of work. Joking. So I'll look at that, because there's two more to do, and I'm working on the rules and regulations, and that form looked kind of simple that I could just go in and do it, but if I get too deep. But we should have all four of those ready to go with a plan in front of the board.
Yeah, if you need me to help with any
I will,
reformatting
because
and
I
stuff,
already have the
can.
two just sitting there, like I sent you previously. They're the exact same thing.
Okay,
Just sitting there if you had chance.
so it's two of the exact same forms, just with different notes on it, or?
Yeah, one was where Corey and I reviewed those, and then we wrote our changes on that. So I thought that would be a good one. You could look at
Okay.
that. I'm from the old school. You look at that, and then you could just change it on that
Okay, and
PDF
I
form.
think that's the one I referenced when I made the changes.
Okay.
It had red marks on it
Yep,
and all that,
yep.
so.
I
okay.
just use that so you could use a reference for changing, and the others are all laid out the same way. so.
Okay, yeah, one of them I had a lot of text on there that was kind of,
It was funky, because
Yeah.
Sarah did it, and she said just some of that was really funky for her, so that's how it
Okay.
is. I would like to, eventually, once it is all approved, that we get, obviously, the East Bay Township logo on it, and then I also toyed with an idea of maybe getting a garden logo also on that. Maybe we can make something fun out of it. Maybe it could be a competition or some kind of interest in there for that logo. Maybe have some T-shirts made up. Who knows?
Well, if you want to put it on the agenda for November, I'd need it by November 13th, whatever you want to put in the packet for that.
Alrighty.
So, and,
Those
yeah.
were those were all the rules and governance. so-
Yeah, there's
okay.
4 of them laid out. I know there's the Gardner information, just a general information, and then there's the Gardner guidelines, and rules and guidelines is the separate. So there's 4 different ones. It's just, one is informational, one is specifically if you're a gardener, and then the one is just generically about the community garden, and then the rules ones, that's a 2-page where they will sign it. And the application is the one, so there's 4 total. So that application form's ready to go to send.
Okay.
Yeah, the application for, and how we'll accept applications.
Okay.
Again, and to present it for the board, we can all have great discussions on it,
Yeah.
so.
Okay.
Can you remind me, please, we applied for the grant, right, for the funding. When did we hear back on that one?
They did not fund it.
They did not fund it.
Yes.
So have we had a chance to present to the township board yet? Okay.
No, so that's going to be happening
Okay.
probably over the winter, maybe once these rules and that get approved, then
Yeah.
have the board involved.
So I did do a little teeny bit of research one day into potential other funding sources, just to kind of like show the board, hey, we're here.
Great.
So there was one that I found through the USDA, NRCS runs it, and it's a 2-part program. So you can apply as a planning project, and then there's like a, kind of like a set, you can apply as a planning project or an implementation project, and you can apply for each segment. So that's an option if you want me to send you the information there.
Yeah,
And
we
it
need
says
to
the
probably
awards
present it.
range from 50 to 250,000. And I
Anything.
think that would go a lot.
When's the deadline on those?
This is like a rolling application,
Oh,
so I
okay.
think they have at least
Okay.
one, like, selection process per year. I don't have the exact, the next upcoming one written down.
Yeah, maybe you can
Yeah.
send it to all of us and then
Yeah.
send it to Sarah, and maybe we can get
Well, I was
rolling on
hoping to
that.
have more than just one option to share.
Keep working. That sounds great.
Well, that's
Keep
what,
working.
feel free to send it over to me, and then I can distribute to the whole group, and
Okay.
that way there's no back and forth about it.
Yeah.
but-
Anyway,
Great.
yeah, but that one sounded interesting, so I just.
Keep looking.
Yeah.
It beats selling pies.
Hey, Ally, did they say anything about matching requirements in that one, the USDA?
There's no matching requirement. Of course, with like any grant, my understanding is that a match is nice. But this specific one, I don't think had one. I would have to look at it again.
Okay. I mean, we usually keep a, oh, no, we don't. No, I'm thinking for land acquisition. Never mind.
Yeah, I don't think that we would necessarily need that. I was a little bit concerned about our eligibility based on some other factors, but we meet enough of them that I thought it was interesting to bring up.
Sure.
Sarah, have you ever had any experience with those? Okay.
Yeah, so if we get it to Sarah, we can look into it,
Right.
so.
Oh. Yeah, so the township does. Parks
Oh.
Just
specific, no.
Does not. Okay.
What does that mean then? Does that mean we can't do that then? or-
I don't think so. I mean, we'll take a look at it and see if it's an option that's viable for the project.
Okay.
It's worth looking into, so.
When did you need those by? The 14th, you said?
13th.
Needs another grant coordinator.
Right.
Okay. All right, anything else on the community garden?
No, moving
All right.
along.
Sarah, do you have anything other than the draft to present?
No, there's some information on your desk about the Rural Development Fund grants fact sheet.
Okay.
I was talking with Beth a little bit before the meeting about it, and we may try to put something in for community garden.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
Questions? Were the bleachers going in this fall at Grace, or are they going in the spring?
Yeah.
They're in?
Did they come in and were damaged?
The bleachers came in and they were damaged, so they haven't been paid for yet. And Buildings and Grounds put them together, and then we took an inventory of the parts that were missing, because we had some of the hardware that was missing, and a couple of the planks ends, and one plank scratched. So they reshipped those. Dan actually picked them up today and took them over to the park. He wasn't able to take them out of the packaging yet to assess everything, but it looks like everything is there. And so we will probably be releasing payment shortly for that. But they look really nice. If you go over there, we have one of the player benches. They totally forgot to send one player bench. So we have one player bench, and we have most of the tiered bleacher there. We're missing a couple planks. And you'll notice right now they're single foot planks because they didn't send enough planks to do the double foot. And Dan didn't realize it was a double foot, and since they didn't have the planks, he thought it was a single foot, so. But he'll just adjust those and move them over and add the extra planks.
Okay.
But they look good in the quality. I mean, unfortunately, with the shipping, they were damaged, but the quality looks good.
Did we ever get the cornhole bid for the
Yep.
sidewalk?
That's been, that has been signed for the planning, yep, according to the motion that the Parks Commission passed.
Yeah.
That's been signed, and I sent a copy to Zach,
All
and
right.
so Wade Trim should be working on that.
Yeah, I forgot about that one, so.
And did we find or look for vendors for the all-purpose field? For the soccer field? Or are we just?
So I know of one place out of Grand Rapids that revamps fields. I talked with a playground vendor at a supervisor's meeting about 2 weeks ago, and he was familiar with the company he was referencing, I believe was the same company in Grand Rapids. I haven't talked to them any further about, what to do. I mean, I can get an estimate to redo it just according to a field, but I think maybe it would be great to have some more specific guidance on, like, what exactly you want to have there, if it is soccer, or if it is some other type of field, or if you want to convert it into something else, I don't know.
I mean, it has irrigation, the irrigation works, correct? And then I believe the biggest thing that field needs is just to be leveled out, and,
Got a lot of divots in it.
and, I think if that was leveled out, you would attract more, people wanting to use it for practices and all that, and I already know it gets used for like some football activities and stuff like that, but, but, I mean, if it was level, I mean, I know a group right now that'd be interested in it, but they're still, they're growing. But yeah, I don't know exactly how to level it, and know, maybe, what's it called, a steamroller?
Yeah.
And I think they use those to level out fields a lot.
I can reach out further to the company in Grand Rapids, or even maybe that company that I mentioned too, to find out some, like what the process is and the further. And then if we need to do like an RFP or.
I
work
could
with a couple
try to
organizations.
ask around too at the facilities guys, they might have, we've had to do it before at the Civic Center, like when the president came and all that. So maybe they'll have some resources, but a lot of that institutional knowledge is not there anymore. But
And I think it might be good to get an estimate. It was low priority on our action list based on the votes to do anything with it. But I know that it's been talked about multiple times.
It is low on our priority list. We have others in front of it.
yeah, because that field was dedicated to, that there's that rock out there where it's dedicated, correct? Or
What's that?
isn't that sport
Yeah,
field,
it wasn't
was it dedicated to someone? Bert Ziggers
The
or?
park itself was
Or-
in honor of Grace McDonald.
And then.
No,
Not
you're
the
right. There's
park.
a rock out there.
Yeah.
It's got, I think, a gentleman's name on it.
Like Bert Zagers or something like that?
Wasn't he a former Parks?
He is like the first parks director in the county, I believe. I'm not 100%. I only know because the name stuck with me in my head because I've seen it before. And if it is something that, is, dedicated towards that field, maybe we should, try to boost up that field a little bit, to kind of honor that. But not to relook at that rock.
It's not a burial site for a dog or something, is it?
Oh, it was
No, it's just a kind of dedication thing.
rock with a plaque on it, yeah.
Thank you, Beth. All right.
It may be a low priority, but it just seems like we could level it and reseed it.
It definitely could use just some maintenance. It's like wood chips. Just gotta maintain it. Do a little bit more maintenance to it. All right. I guess everyone's set on that. We're gonna move on to business before the Parks Commission. We have business 9A, Arbutus Lake, number 5, park update and change order. Beth has some more on that for us, so.
So Wade Trim called me this week and went and took a look at the Arbutus Lake number 5, which is coming along and a lot's getting done with that if you've been out there. I know Corey mentioned she was out there this weekend. So what they specifically wanted me to look at was the edging along the sidewalk, which if you can imagine runs kind of parallel to the lake edge. That isn't matching up well, the grading with the parking lot. So it's quite a bit above, and the worst area for it is right where the ADA parking lot, or parking spaces will be, which is not great. So the solution is to cut back further to grade that in. Well, they're going to have to cut back about 10 feet in order to grade that in appropriately for ADA. If they're cutting back about 10 feet into that asphalt, because it's all the way across, they are suggesting, and I think it's a good recommendation, to do the rest of the parking lot. If you recall, the entire parking lot was not in the project. There were some corner edges that were getting filled in, and to kind of square off that parking lot, but the whole parking lot was not getting done. Well, this is going to be a substantial part to go back 10 feet all the way across. And with the age of the parking lot, it just makes the most sense with the investment, and once they're already out there, to do all of that. So we looked at trying to get the prices for you for tonight's meeting, and the contractor received one price that was ridiculously high. And we're thinking it's just because it's being pushed, right now. So what our suggestion is that that parking lot would be held over until the spring. And so what they would do right now in that divot between the asphalt and the concrete would be to fill that with some crushed stone in that area. And then they would come back first thing in the spring and redo that parking lot. So that's the suggestion for the parking lot that I wanted to let you know. And then the other thing, the other change order that would be coming up, that would be a change order to the contract. We could also look at doing it as a separate contract too, if we need to. We'll try to do it as a change order with the current contractor that's out there. But if we have issues with pricing or anything like that, we could do it as a separate contract. It would either be So, and the other change order is, we noticed that we don't have grills in where there's ADA compliant tables. So if you're handicapped, you can have a place to picnic, but you could grill. All the places with the grill are on uneven terrain. So there will be a suggestion to have a change order to add the 2 ADA grills. So I told him just to hold off and put both of those at one time. We'll do them. But I wanted to be ready to do the change order with the township board who approved the contract to begin with. So I wanted to bring that to you for potential motion to recommend supporting a full parking lot resurfacing and the addition of 2 ADA grills.
Can we sort of just have a discussion at least? So I saw sort of where the concrete, and then there was a difference in elevation, obviously. It looks much higher, the concrete sidewalk than down below. Can we sort of look at the possibility of maybe doing some kind of pervious surface, where I've seen where they're big cement like designs, but within those cement designs, you can either put grass or gravel, but usually they put like a grass in it. So you could take that 10 feet. Now, I don't know, because I'm not an environmentalist or whatever, but I know that pervious surface would be good, because if that water's running down from the road, which it does, on asphalt's the worst. It's like a running stream. But would that be enough to take that whole area there, that length, and put in that pervious design, paver type things, to help solve some of that runoff from the roadway, rather than just going, okay, let's just resurface it with asphalt, because asphalt's the worst thing to have on that lakefront like that, because of the elevation, the hill. I'm just throwing that out there, if maybe that could be looked at.
I think in this situation,
possibly.
though, it's dealing with the ADA. The problem we're having is within the ADA parking spaces, so I don't know if what you're talking about would be a fit.
Well,
for-
See, so I also had that concern with redoing the parking lot, because it is right there by the lake. I've seen parking lot surfaces before that are smooth and they look like asphalt, but they let water drain through. And then one would hope that that would comply with ADA, because ADA is one of our top priorities.
And
But-
that surface that you're talking about is
But
more
that
like a
one's really
rubberized
expensive, though.
mat, and that surface I know does take maintenance on that.
Oh.
And then with snow plowing and that, because we had already reviewed on that, it's sort of like a rubber mat, but it's,
Oh, okay.
but it's not
They
asphalt.
get clogged Was that
Yeah.
what it was? They get clogged with the salt in the sands?
Right, right. So we had looked at something like that for that issue. And again, I mean, it's not going to cost us anything now because we know we got to do something about that. So maybe if we could sort of look at that option, or is it not an option for that? And that would be, I guess, a construction engineer person, I guess. I don't know.
Well,
You know,
I mean, I think we just have an issue where grades aren't lining up, and we're not necessarily changing the scope of the project other than.
yeah, well, yeah, we sort of are. The
Well-
whole we're talking
Yeah.
either whole paving it or that 10 feet back, they got to cut into that. So-
They have to rip out so much pavement to get the grade properly, and the cost to do that's gonna be just as much, or if not more, than just to strip back and just repave it all
Did the engineers
down.
have any insight on water runoff when they were giving us?
So I asked them, and I've always asked them when we're talking about that pavement there, to be able to do something at the top of the roadway to try to avert some of the runoff. And right now, what's in the project right now is asphalt all the way across there. It'd be the existing asphalt and then that fill line of asphalt, had there not been the grading difference. So as the project is engineered right now, it is an asphalt parking lot. I asked them if we were going back and redoing that, is there some grading they could do to try to keep more of that water on the roadway? It's tough, especially because if they ramp up a little bit, then they have a steeper slope. So that becomes difficult, but they said they would take a look at anything they can do. It's just a really not a great tie-in with the road right there.
And plus being pavement compared to gravel, it's just going to run right like it has been for years down into the lake, period. And then you have all that petroleum running down there. You got kids swimming in that water. I mean, we've seen videos of that water running down right into Arbutus there, which I'm just saying, if we could maybe look at that possibility out there, Beth, and you're talking with you're talking with them, I mean, we're not, with either the engineer or the planner.
Yeah, and I can certainly take back to Wade Trim and ask them of any opportunities to improve that drainage there, or any materials that could help do that as well. Certainly, that's on our mind too, and there weren't any suggestions for that, which I'm pretty comfortable dealing with Wade Trim, and that they would have offered that as a suggestion, knowing that that's an issue. But I'm happy to go back to them and talk about that with them again.
Personally, I would like to see that just because of that problem with the runoff and the environmental issue of it, that it's always has been.
Have you seen anywhere locally that would have anything like that?
I've only seen online, I called a couple businesses that sell it. I've seen it, it's used even in residential. They're like probably this size concrete. They usually have a pattern on it, diamond shape or whatever, and then you can either fill it with gravel or you can fill it with, I've seen, grass. So that sort of gives that pervious surface, so if that water's running off, it's at least going to be able to go to the ground and filter through that ground rather than directly right into the lake. And people use them for like carports also, just because that water saturation isn't sitting on top of anything and it's not guiding it to go anywhere except through
I
the,
guess I'm not really too familiar with it. I've seen something similar, like at the
yeah, I
Detroit
think you
Zoo.
would
or-
too. You would know it if you see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it,
And as you can drive over, it's made for cars, you know.
but I was just there yesterday taking pictures. It's I know where the runoff is. You can see where the runoff, it is right where our ADA parking is. So we would have to make sure that these surfaces are ADA compliant.
Absolutely. No matter what surface we go and have, absolutely.
I can't see it, so I'm thinking like you're in a motorized wheelchair.
It should be right level as if it were asphalt. The only thing different is you're gonna have holes in the like big concrete slab type. You know, I've seen them this size, different sizes, but that emptiness of those cubes or whatever, you fill it full of grass or gravel, so that water can filter down through the surface. That's the whole intent. It's several steps up from having a gravel road there, where, you know, gravel would at least go down through the stones.
I'm
But I've
sure-
seen driveways.
I'm sure if
made
we
on
have the parking lot resurfaced, we can probably get some grading in to keep the water to the inside edge and kind of veer it off with slopes and whatnot, so it's not all just coming straight down the hill towards the lake.
Seriously? Really? I think they would have done that way before
Well, when was that
this.
put in? 50 years ago?
What?
The pavement, when was that?
Absolutely not. I don't think
It was
it's
before
50
my
years ago.
time, probably, so,
No.
but if they're to regrade and rip it up and you can put slopes on stuff and keep it to the
Common
inside
sense
edge.
is going to tell you pavement. Have you seen anyone, when it's a hard rain, pavement runs, and it's going to run right back into that lake,
Well,
or diverting it.
Slopes and engineering to keep water to one side of the pavement to round the corner and run it off towards,
The
say,
best-case scenario we could have is have a drainage ditch at the top.
Is
Maybe,
Arbutus Road still removed from the road commissioner's repair list?
It is not on their repair list at this time that I have heard of. I just was at a county road commission meeting the other day and encouraged them to put that on what's called I can't remember the definition, like a county through road or something. Because they have Hobbs Highway as one, but not East Arbutus. And I mentioned, you know, it had been on the repair list in 2018 and 19 and pushed back, and then they told me it would only be an SAD. And it is not a good candidate for a special assessment district. It's not.
Not at all.
And
No.
now they have acknowledged that an SAD is probably not likely there, and did comment on them to ask them to add that to the list and designate it similarly to Hobbs Highway.
Absolutely.
I think with the parking lot stuff, you know, we'd probably have to consult with the drain commissioner too. Was that something that they'd cover if it's coming off of the,
Well, I think this was all looked at the beginning of this project and designed and engineered with a lot of the similar suggestions were considered at that time. And we ended up with the scope as it is. So this doesn't largely change that scope. So I would like at least to be able to move forward with this if discussions with Wade Trim don't produce anything fruitful. And if it does produce anything fruitful, we would bring that back to you.
okay. So we'd essentially just be approving of a change order if the opportunity arises, if Wade Train didn't come with a solution to the current problem?
Right, a recommendation for supporting the full parking lot resurfacing and the addition of 2 ADA grills.
Are
So,
we just approving, are we approving like a specific change order, or will we see, like a plan, I guess, like a quote, or will we see that later?
Well, so the township board officially approved the project with Spence Brothers and the contract. And so it really rests with them. And you recall, this is the DNR Trust Fund project, and DNR Trust Fund projects always require the approval of the, don't know what you would call, what they call it, I forget, like senior, the main elected board of the township. Now, we have inquired with them specifically if they accept the Parks Commission resolution. So like when you go to put in for a DNR trust fund grant, will they accept your resolution as the resolution from the elected body? Because you are an elected Parks Commissioner, which is in a smaller percentage of townships across the state. And they don't recognize the difference between an elected and an advisory Parks Commission. So when we're dealing with the DNR trust fund, it's always best and safest to have that, they want to see those resolutions.
The highest
and approvals
authority.
from the
Purview.
highest board, yes.
So what we do is we make a motion to express to the township board that this is something that we as a park commission want to see.
Do we have
Yeah,
to,
that would be
Am I
what the
supposed to
motion
keep-
would
do
be.
we
But
have?
we're not committing to any particular plan, we're just the fact that we're like, yep, resurfacing, redoing the project, and pavement in the grills sounds like a good idea. Okay.
But that's locking us into having pavement, just redo the pavement
Well,
and
we
leave it
don't-
as pavement, right?
It would be a recommendation for a full parking lot resurfacing and 2 ADA grills.
So basically, you are saying it would just be resurfacing
As-
of,
Without any,
asphalt.
without any other relevant pertinent information from Wade Trim, yes, that's what we would look at doing.
yeah, so that's going to cut any possibility of putting a previous surface in. If
No,
we
I
go
would
ahead and
still-
give you that approval tonight, right? Or am I wrong?
Well, I did tell you I would consult with Wade Trim and ask them for options, and I would still do that, particularly because we're not pushing this through in this fall. That will be done at the beginning of the year. There's time for me to do that. So while, yes, this motion is for the continuation of, well, an expanded scope, I guess you would say, but it's the same type of engineered fix from before, I would still go back and talk with them and bring you back any other relevant information.
All right. Yeah.
I'd be okay with just going off of whatever Wade Trim recommends, you know,
Yeah.
if we bring up, you know, if it's a possibility to do something like that, and if it's even recommended, because I don't know how long something like that would last, or, you know, if it's a lot of water coming down, it might wear away at it. and
So
it might come
the
apart
project's
sooner.
already been approved, you know, the way it is, engineered to the standard with our concerns of the water issues. We're just running into an issue where grades aren't meeting up, so the best fix would be to resurface what is to the concrete. And Beth will then ask on our behalf if there's any options to try to control that water in whatever engineered manner, material that would be safe to our water.
And still ADA compliant.
Yes. So if everyone's good with that, we can make a motion so we can get Beth moving along with talking to Wade Trim, so.
Can we wait till you can hear from Wade Trim before we all
Well, one of the
say
reasons I wanted
yes?
it here tonight is I wanted the flexibility to have the flexibility to get this to the township board, to give the contractor as much leeway this fall as they could to get done what they need to get done.
Okay, is
And
1
it is-
month going to be really,
Yeah, I mean, it could be. We just don't know. I don't know what the weather's going to entail. I don't know what the contractor's work is going to entail. So it gives us the greatest flexibility.
Right now, they're just going to be putting gravel as a catch, you know, in that little gap area. And then the parking lot would be, you know, done in the spring, so that.
that's a good point there, right there. It's not like they're going to be paving it
Yeah,
this
but
winter.
they'll need to still plan to get the contractors lined up.
But that would give us a month to have maybe a positive response back from Wade Trim. Because right now, we don't know. And right now, if everyone says yes, that it's going to be filled with pavement, most likely.
Well, I mean, even, so if the engineers at Wade Trim look at the site and they say, unfortunately, there isn't a way for us to do that, I mean, we're still gonna wanna move forward with the parking lot resurfacing because like, as like a value, like a good use of our money, if it's gonna cost about the same to do the kick it 10-foot back thing as it is to repave the whole parking lot, it's kind of like bang for your buck to me, you know, like makes the most sense, like spend our money wisely to get more done.
Well, I'm looking at environment, so.
Oh, I feel you there.
And I have no problem repaving, I just soon rip all the pavement off, but that's not gonna happen. But repaving, but near where we're talking, where that concrete sidewalk ends, there could be some help there with that pervious surface that I passed around with block, where you saw grass was growing in between those diamond-shaped things, that they are made for heavy-duty weight. That I would be happier with than running and elevating that pavement. But we don't know that answer. Wade Trim isn't here, and Beth needs to know so she can get the contract going. But once again, I feel there's like pressure to make this decision when we don't have all the correct answers
Well,
yet.
I can tell you that when we went through the planning and the engineering design of it, that the permeability of the surfaces was discussed at that time, and this was the best option at the time. And I can tell you as well that there were rain gardens along that ledge that were suggested by Eagle to be removed, that were removed. So this project is Eagle approved, and.
Sure. But also, when we did discuss the pervious back in that time, there was no money to be put into that driveway. It was all earmarked for bathrooms and, you know, the new big boulders on the shoreline. So that was always stated, there was no money in there to fix that parking lot. We all knew that, and we were all hoping that, as you said, Arbutus would be paved by now. Well, that didn't happen and this didn't happen. But I remember from Wade Trim, yes, there was pervious surfaces. It would be, to my understanding, it would work, but there was the dollars. It was all about the money, and it wasn't figured in. It wasn't even part of the reconstruction of that park.
Actually, I think as well, it was the performance of the materials in that place and stance, more so than the money.
Yeah, I keep on trying to picture it there because it's a steep, decline to get down to the parking lot. And then if that, the way that the surface is, it, crisscrosses, and if it gets snowplowed, it seems like it could crumple up and get broken. I don't know, I'm asking because I've not seen it in action. So I don't know like how good quality it is.
Yeah, and there's
if
a
it
big
would-
difference between putting that in your driveway or your residential area and then putting it in a heavily used park area. So maintenance on something like that.
Well, none of
would
us
also
know
be
these
concerned.
answers, now
No, I
do
know,
we?
but I'm just like,
So I'm
sense.
leaving it out on the table to look before we put pavement on, so.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to recommend the change order to Arbutus number 5 to the Township Board of redoing the parking lot and adding 2 ADA grills.
I'll support that. All right, motion by Layton, support by Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oppose.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you very much, and I'll bring back any pertinent useful information.
Thank you for looking into that, Beth.
thank you, Beth.
All right. Business before the Parks Commission, 9B, draft parks plan, which we each got printed out. Copies of this here. Sarah's took a lot of time and effort to get this together for us to review. Has anyone seen any issues that they would like to bring up and make any suggestions for Sarah?
Sarah, I noticed, if you go to Grace, when you're describing Grace, You still had the horseshoe pits in there. So you probably want to take those out since they're gone. Page 23, Grace McDonald Park
Oh,
and horseshoe courts, which are gone and will be
Cornhole.
cornhole, yep.
So maybe throw cornhole in there?
So ideas for improvements, I'll put it in there, because it's not done, but it's kind of, or I could say cornhole is done.
Dealer's
It won't be, right, it won't be done this fall. I'm gonna put it under ideas for improvements,
Okay.
because I don't want them to somehow like
Yeah,
get
yeah.
us a.
Mislead. Yeah.
Plus, you know, kind of like Jen's that you didn't put in last time, and then, you know, didn't happen, so.
So my gist of this, with all the stats, was one, overwhelming, but two, East Bay, it sounds like we have a bunch of old, rich people.
Based
How
on
are we
the
ever going
census,
to get a
yes.
grant with old, rich people?
I don't know. I mean, you get lots of grants though, so even though you have old rich people. I,
I mean, we're above even Grand Traverse County, in the
Right.
median, yeah.
and that's, I mean, unfortunately,
But our housing in this township is lower than the county, which,
yeah.
that, does it make?
It's like we have less houses?
No, that the
Right.
prices,
The prices.
Yeah.
Really?
yep.
Yeah, I mean, this,
Although, I'm sorry, sir,
Yeah.
although this was taken, most of these were 2010 to 2020.
Right.
It would be interesting, before we set in stone this, to see what the last 2 years have brought, because I think that's where we're missing this opportunity, but we don't have a choice, because we've got to get this done.
right,
Because the last 2 years have been off the Richter scale. There is no normalcy there.
right. Yeah, I mean, we could use the estimates. I mean, we always go back to the census because the census is the most reliable information. So we could pull the community survey estimates for it, but they're just estimates for the last 2 or 3 years to use. And I don't know how much you'd see a change, I mean, because they're estimates and based some
Yeah.
on some of the past, so.
I think, yeah, I think there would be some significant changes that we could notice, but I mean, for consistency's sake, I like how this is set up. And I'm only thinking that because a lot of people moved to the area over the last few years and different population trends. It's just, the data's going to look a little wacky for a little while, I imagine.
According to the data, I am a perfect representation of an East Bay Township resident, based on my age and my household income.
But as far
Put my
as,
picture on like the, look at East Bay. You can be just like
but the
me.
average age is 66 to 74.
What says here, township age makeup, 13.7.
Well, we can let me pull it and see if there's something that kind of stands out. We might be able to write a paragraph that's off, talking specifically about
I would like
it.
to really dig into that, because for me, I read this, every single page on here, and that's the gist of what I walked away with East Bay Township. We got a lot of people over 66 and they're rich.
Yeah.
So we do have.
And you even said yes to that, so
Well, that's most, yeah,
Well-
this
Well,
area,
read
that's
it.
what it is, so.
read it.
Part-time
And,
residents too, right?
and not a lot of children in this township. Actually, it's kind of, there's not a lot of kids, but we have schools. But in East Bay, there's not a lot of children.
Yeah.
I got a couple just verbal changes on page 21. So Kelly Park, a lot of people don't even know it has the name, but it's far from a park.
I thought that was an easement.
Well,
Is it really a park?
it says it's 2 acres. I'm thinking, where is that 2 acres? It must be
That's
the
what I knew.
water.
Well,
That's
it's
what I'm
got like
wondering.
where the,
I know it goes
the
around.
storage, isn't there, it
Oh.
doesn't, Kelly Park includes the maintenance
does.
Yeah,
storage area.
maintenance.
It does. But could we maybe say, or someone else could have a better solution? We could say Kelly Park is within walking distance of Killingsworth Park, rather than say Kelly Park is a 2-acre park that sits across the road from Killingsworth Park, because it really doesn't sit across the road. It's within walking distance.
I'm
And then,
kind of hesitant to even consider it a park.
right,
That's why I'm like,
Yeah, can we just call it like a park property or something?
I have another classification question. So on page 19, it lists off all the different types of parks. So if a mini
Right.
park is currently listed as a mini park, could it be special use or recreation facility?
yeah, it launches boats, I guess.
And then my other question on that was, Killingsworth is listed as a neighborhood park, which is a recreational and social focus of the neighborhood, but I just feel like that's more of a natural resource area, and I wonder if there's any hard and fast rules about, or will that help us achieve different goals for those parks in the future? Or is this just kind of how we're classifying?
I think it's kind of how you're classifying. I mean, you could go either way, because I think Killingsworth wants to be a neighborhood park, but it's never been developed to be a neighborhood park.
Because it's perfect just the way it is.
So, so we could call it
Vintage.
recreational.
Classic.
I don't think, you're not going to get dinged one way or another. So if you would prefer to be classified as recreational, that's completely fine. And as it gets developed more, or never gets developed, depending on, if Corey gets her way here, then it will always be recreational. So
Oh,
there's
yeah, I
no
mean,
right
I was
answer.
just thinking, would it help to call it something?
Like a natural resource area.
Yeah,
Really, you
I
could
mean,
think it is
Like,
that.
I don't know, to me, I think Killingsworth is wild and beautiful in that state.
Right.
So when I go there, it's because I'm like, oh, look at the, like I was saying earlier, woods, natural resources,
Right.
left and right. So I was just curious about like how that went down and if it would be
Yeah.
helpful.
It would be, I don't think it would be helpful or hurt it in
Okay.
either way. So whatever you're comfortable calling it, I'm good with.
I'm.
Do we
happy-
have a parking lot there?
Is there actually one for that?
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
works for me.
Or maybe it's, which one's off Ike?
Because then, yeah, it could
It's
then
not
be
off,
neighborhood.
Pines is off of Ike.
Okay.
There, and you're correct.
And then I have another change
Sure.
in just words. Page 24. Could we say that last sentence for Pines Park? It is located on an unpaved road and in the conceptual stage as a park, other than it's not accessible. Well, it's on unpaved road, it's not accessible. I don't think we need to state that in there, because it's not even developed yet.
Well, I can just take that off,
Okay,
the not accessible part.
Yes, probably.
Well, does the
And you could just say-
non-accessible apply to
Have more
like,
neighbors.
like ADA accessibility? Because in that case, we might want to
We have
state
that
it.
issue in the county too.
Or is that different?
it's a conceptual, it's still conceptual, because we haven't done anything yet.
It's more or less a piece of property, so it's not, we're
Like,
not
it's almost
we're
like a
not,
natural resources.
yeah, we're not promoting usage, but it still is
Oh, I see.
township property.
That at one
that-
time
yeah.
was going to be baseball diamonds,
Yeah.
tennis courts, a big pavilion.
Yeah.
And there is housing creeping closer and closer and
Yep.
closer.
So what's the consensus on that? Take off accessible?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
would probably just, it's located within, what is that, 2 miles from here? Maybe,
3 miles.
rather than saying it's located on an unpaved road. Well, who cares about that? I mean, we do care, but it makes it sound like, well, we have this place, but,
you just say it's located 3 miles south of the township office.
yeah. And then I had a on the last page, something just sort of, in comment, they were talking about parks and then having, what's that, the mini parks. Anyways, I sort of just, a vision came like with the Little Red Schoolhouse property over here, that if it ever came up for sale, that might make a nice little park.
Where?
You mean the chiropractor's office?
Yep. Because eventually, we'll probably have a roundabout here, which is going to slow the traffic down. And then we already have the schools on all four corners. You got a library. So I'm just saying a mini park or a pickleball court. It's a great property. It's right here with the township. Just in my analysis of reading and near the end of this report, it was talking about envisioning some different mini parks within neighborhoods. So it just sort of, just a thought, just an idea. And my take on this Park Commission action list, I think I highlighted on page 36, the most important items for open house attendees were waterfront access, the planning and design of Hammond Park, and the construction of the community garden. So I believe all the roundabouts that we've done and the different reports and surveys that we've done, I think we've killed it to death. What East Bay is looking for, we're spot on with what we're doing right now with our action plans and priorities.
Can I throw something in here, just going backwards to Pines Park again? I noticed that it mentions 60 acres will remain red pine plantation with some hardwoods, and I'm wondering if that's something that maybe we need to work with like, do we have any kind of management plan or anything? Is it-
Yeah, I mean, I can put in, I think maybe ideas for improvements is look into maybe a management plan of the pines
Yeah.
type of thing.
Because sometimes you have to thin out the red pine so they can grow bigger.
Okay,
Might be worth, if we do anything,
yeah.
that
At least look
probably
at that. I
something.
think we had that looked at a few years ago, maybe about 4 or 6 years ago, clearing out the dead in there.
Harvestable.
Well, no, because, well, I shouldn't say that, but years and years ago, it was harvestable. It was harvested, but somehow, I don't know, the
sounded like
township never found the money for it.
20 acres was cleared, it said for recreation development. So is that maybe what you were thinking,
No,
if that cleared it? No.
absolutely not.
While you're on page 24, Killingsworth Park, ideas from improvement, bathroom facilities. We've also talked about sprucing up the gazebo rental and maybe sprucing up the gazebo and maybe adding another gazebo for rentals, since Grace in the summer is always full. So maybe that, we could think of ideas of improvement. Gazebo.
Do you think there's room out there for a second one?
I don't, we went there, we looked at it, we talked about it, and I don't remember what we said.
Maybe make it bigger.
I don't know if there's room for a whole other one, because it gets, that whole entire parking lot area is kind of like slopey and.
There would be some room to the right potentially for a small pavilion of similar size, I believe.
And the parking lot is really big for the amount of cars I've ever seen over there.
Yeah, people walk there. A lot of the neighbors just walk.
Well, we
Right,
can add it in there. I think
Yeah.
that's a good,
No, pavilion
At
improvements.
the very least, make what we have, because that gets, when we did our parks tour, there was a reservation in the box.
and it's great for cross-country skiing.
Does
Really?
it have good, I don't recall it having great trail signage or like a trail
No,
map.
it's all,
Oh, I
it
thought the
needs,
trail maps and signs were fine.
Yeah, there's,
They're
They're
relative,
decent
they're
once you-
relatively
yeah.
new.
Once you get on the trail, they're decent.
When you're on the trail,
Yeah.
getting
Do we
to
need
the
like
trail.
direction
No,
to
there's
get to the trail?
There's signs right there. There's like, you can
Yeah.
get on the trails 2 different ways.
Oh, yeah, they're in there.
There's one
Okay.
at, right on the corner of the parking lot where it goes up, and then there's one kind of behind the
Down by the
monkey
school.
Oh, you
bars.
know what I'm
Yeah.
thinking of? I'm thinking of those, they have those cute little signs that say, this is a white pine, and it talks
Oh.
about that.
Oh, yeah.
Those are getting old.
Yeah,
That's a
they
cute
are.
idea, but those
Yeah.
are getting old.
Some of those were redone. I say recently, but that could have been
They
7
look
years
quite
ago.
faded.
Actually, it'd be nice to put, once we get there, is to get, I know through the Conservation District, through Master Gardener Plan, they have great signage. They're galvanized signage with photos of the actual plants, so kids,
Like
it's
with
sort of
the info
educational.
sheets About that, like just a little like.
Yeah,
this
you
big.
guys have
I
them
know
over
the
there.
exact ones you're
Yeah,
talking about,
they're galvanized, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Those would be good.
Those are a little bit more temporary. We keep those out and then we take them in during the winter.
Yeah, but
So
you
that'd
could,
be kind of a lot of effort. but-
yeah, that's true, but it's great for identifying.
Yeah, educational is
Mhm.
great.
So I'll just put update informational signs just as a potential idea for improvement. Okay.
Just so you guys know, signage is really expensive right now.
What isn't expensive? I
Yeah.
mean, it's unbelievable. It's like sticker shock on everything.
Any other comments? Oh, I saw something here. So you have not, so I guess just in general, the Parks Commission saw the first 3 chapters of this at various meetings in the past, kind of at the end of the spring, beginning of the summer, but you did not see the park inventory or the implementation component, so this is kind of your first time looking at that. Although the inventory is based on your old inventory and what's out at site there, and then the action plan was put together based on the list we had and the voting at the open house for that. So that's where that kind of all comes from, just as some background information. Something that happened today while I was in the office, just before this meeting, is I was talking with Sam, the CEDAM Fellow. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to meet him. He came to the open house, if you were here for the open house. He was talking about some farmer market work, and that was on one of the action item lists as something. And so I'm going to add just a comment in there about researching, looking into future of maybe farm markets, or a farm market here at the Township Hall, just for any project they may move forward with, either
Agreed.
grant-wise or,
Might complement a community garden.
right. And I think
I
that was
didn't
kind
want
of,
to say it.
Help us be eligible for more funding.
Right.
Keep beating that same death.
so I'm just gonna, I'll add in there somewhere, because it would be here, and I think it would be a compliment to the community garden, so if we can somehow put a grant together for both of them, or, work off of one or another. I know we haven't talked about that very much at the Parks Commission, but it's kind of more of a, almost administrative thing at this point, because if they use a parking lot out here, it's just somebody needs to organize that versus the Parks Commission.
Well,
spending
and I
time on
think
it.
Beth took a class in that also.
Yes, she did.
So,
So is it usually you that write the grants, Sarah, or is it the planning department? A little bit of both?
A little bit of both. I've worked on the couple that we've done the last couple of years on it for the Parks Commission specifically. But I know that Sam, kind of in his role, and he has some of the CEDAM area too, that I think he's looking at other opportunities. So it's kind of all hands on deck to figure out the best way to make it all work.
Okay.
I have a question on page 14.
I can write grants too.
You can write grants too, is that what I heard?
You did,
No.
loud and clear.
Okay, yep, done. Because one of them, and this is my own fault, one of them I was like submitting at like 10 o'clock at night before it was due, and Beth had to come up here to get something for me so that I could put it
Oh,
in there, and
man.
I felt so bad. So you might have better time management skills to get it done.
I'm a little off right now, but I'm happy to help out where I can.
First, let me get him finishing up those two
Yes,
additions.
yep,
But that'd be great, because they have 2 or 3 people
Yeah.
working on grants.
yep,
We'll
absolutely,
find something.
absolutely.
Okay, on page 14, additionally, the township employs staff for park maintenance. The park department has a parks manager and, okay, and then 1 part-time support staff, which I want to put names to these. I would assume the 1 part-time support staff is Leslie.
I don't know the details.
And 1 full-time and 1 part-time groundskeeper, so that would be obviously Dan and his help.
Well, Dan's part-time. We
Oh,
don't
Dan
have-
is
We
part-time.
don't have full-time.
You know what, I'll double check this with Beth, just because I know we changed the structure a little bit.
Yeah, because we went to more consultant,
Right.
hired more consultants, and he's only part-time.
Right, so let me, that paragraph, I will double check the
Because I was
information.
surprised we have a parks manager. So, yeah. And our part-time support staff, I don't know who that is,
Yeah.
but could they maybe put our packet together and have a printed? Or is it everybody, except I'm the only one that wants a printed packet?
Well, Leslie puts it together, so once I get the packet done, I send it to Leslie and ask her to print it, to put in your,
Well,
Your mail slot over there.
yeah, well, I didn't have it, so,
Did you have yours printed?
No one,
so the only thing that was printed for this one beforehand was
this,
the
and I got that.
Park and Rec plan, and then everything else, and I guess in that email, I could have worded it differently, but everything else was just planned on having it here at the meeting, hard copy wise. But,
For me, always, I really, and I can only speak for me, I like having the printed copy because I get it before the meeting. And I like to review it over the weekend and make my notes and really read it. I sit at a computer all day long, that's the last thing I want to do, but maybe everyone else likes to have it just on the computer, that's fine, but,
it's usually printed. This was the,
Fridays.
this was the exception to the
this
rule.
was the only meeting, so.
And I guess I did it because I was like, oh, it's an agenda in minutes, like,
Yeah.
most people would look at it, but I understand. I will do better to make sure that you have a hard copy, even if it's just the agenda in minutes.
yeah, because, I mean, it was, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, are we going back to the old way again where I had to fight to get a copy?
No,
And-
no, it just,
Okay, I just.
circumstance of the meeting that happened this
Great.
time, so,
Just appreciate it.
no problem. Any other comments for the plan?
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So moving forward, yes,
One last one, volunteers. Is there any way, or is it not true yet, that East Bay Township does not have a formal volunteer program, and it doesn't. However, the township partners with local volunteerism-centered groups, including local scouting groups for service projects and specific parks and maintenance projects where attendance is needed. I
So-
know in the writing, we can always go back and change it later, but, you know, we do have somewhat of a hope-to-be partnership with MSU and the Master Gardener Program. And currently, right now, at least the planning stage of the East Bay Community Garden is approved through MSU Extension Services for Master Gardener credit, which I don't know if it's too early to say or not, because my vision of that too is to have volunteers from MSU, obviously helping in the community garden.
I think I can put in a sentence somehow, in there that doesn't overstate what's happening, but looking to the future, like that there's been preliminary talks, and as it becomes more developed, that would be an option for a partnership. That makes sense to me.
You worded it perfectly.
Okay.
If I remember right, once this is submitted as the 5-year plan, if a year later goes by and we needed to amend it, we could still do that and go through that process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I think it's similar timelines, push it off a little bit, but
When's this due, Sarah?
So next steps, we need to submit it to the state by February 1st. So that means the board will need to adopt it, the township board will need to adopt the plan by resolution at their January meeting, which is, I think, January 8th or so. It's early because of how the month sets out. So for the Parks Commission, I guess the question is if the Parks Commission wants to hold the public hearing on this document, or if you just want the township board to hold the public hearing on it. The state law doesn't say, or the state requirements does not say which board holds a public hearing. So it's something that you can do here at one of your meetings, or if you're indifferent, we can do it at the township board.
if you were an East Bay resident, which board would you expect to hear this more from?
Parks. Okay, so can you put this nice little packet together in sort of a, or is this it, the confirmed draft?
Well, that's the draft. I'll put the edits into it. So if the Parks Commission wants to have the public hearing, that's going to happen at your December 20th meeting, unless you hold a special meeting right after the first of the year to have that public hearing.
That's tight.
Is it still,
Because
so
you
then,
said it was due January 8th.
Right, so that's like January 2nd, you're going to have a public hearing on this draft if you want to do that. I mean, we can make it work with with December 20th, but I would need to get this document out for 30-day review so that we can do that. So we have two options for that. One is tonight, you make a motion to have me make corrections based on conversation, put it out for 30-day review, or we come back for a special meeting prior to your November meeting to do the final review and authorize it for a 30-day review.
so it would be set for a public hearing at our December meeting, but then it still has to be approved by the board at their January meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
So you would have the public hearing, consider any input, you could make changes at the meeting, and then forward it on to the township board
For their January meeting.
for their January meeting. And if, for some reason, there's some major changes that need to get done, we'll have to rework the calendar, and the township board may need to have a special meeting to get it done by the end of June, or I'm sorry, January. I skipped the whole winter.
We don't anticipate any major changes
I
other
don't
than
think
what's
so.
been discussed today.
Right. I mean, this follows along with your past plan and then kind of has moved forward. We received input on the action plan, so, I mean, I could see some minor edits and maybe some revisions, just even after you've sat with it a little bit longer,
Right.
after the public hearing, but I would anticipate, public hearing, little discussion, move it along to the board.
Just so we don't have that picture.
What picture?
That's on the current plan?
I think that person has got to be at least 40
Probably has
years
her own
old
kids by
now.
now?
Yeah.
So I do need a couple of additional pictures for the plan. If anybody has any good pictures when you're out in the parks that you want to send along, I'll put it in there and give you photo credit if you like.
Landscape pictures, action shots.
Anything. I mean,
You
'cause
know what would be a good picture? You can go to number 5 right now, and you can see where the kayak launch will be, and they moved the dedication rock. So you've got like the nice wall, and if you stand back enough, you can probably capture like where the kayak launch will be, and then the dedication rock, and then the fishing pier,
Okay,
because it'll give us something for number 5.
right. Yeah, I was gonna throw in the site
Well,
plan that we
actually-
approved, but,
Actually, number 5, I took a picture of the 2 turquoise chairs, and I thought it was in our old plan. So you see the water with those 2 turquoise
That's-
chairs. And then Jen's Park, I did like that pathway through, but I got the photos, the old photos anyways. But I sort of like that one on Arbutus 5 with
But
the,
it doesn't look, it's not gonna look anything like that.
but it's mainly it has the stream and it has the.
Oh, yeah.
It has the stream and it has the 2 Adirondack chairs, which I think, and then you see the lake. It's kind of like calming and it,
I don't really have a good.
well, if you want, I mean, Susan, if you still have that picture and you could send it along, I'll make sure that
I
it's
When
do.
do you need pictures by deadline?
by the time we adopt it,
Okay.
so.
So So we still have some time to
Yeah.
collect some
And here's the
pictures.
one from Jen's Park. I mean, I know it's an older one.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, anything that you have to plug in, there's just a couple of locations in the plan where we could use a picture instead of having such a blank page or something like that, so.
Here's another one.
Not a lot of pressure for that. So how do you want to move forward then? Do you want to make a motion tonight to send out to 30 days, or do you want to look at a edited draft based on conversation before you do that?
So would the Parks Commission like to hold our own public hearing?
As much as I'd like to push it off to the Board of Trustees, I think there would be an expectation that a Parks Commission would hold the hearing.
That's what I was kind of
But
thinking.
are you asking if we want to schedule a special meeting? Or if we want to just make it part of our,
We would make it part of our,
just make it part of December?
Well, what about November? Oh, you probably won't be ready, will you, Sarah?
Well, we could, we just couldn't, we can't, we need 30 days between
Yeah.
when you distribute it and you hold the public hearing. So
it'd have.
we could do it, at a special meeting at the beginning of December, if you approve
Yeah.
it tonight, but
but
I'd
we-
rather just hit your regular meeting.
Yeah,
Unless people aren't going to be here on December 20th.
Assuming that this is.
yeah, so to physically do that, we need to make a motion tonight to approve our changes for Sarah to then make the adjustments and then send it out for 30-day review. And then by the time that gets back, we can then do our public hearing in December at a regular meeting. And then, once we do that, we can then take it to the board for their approval at their January meeting.
But you would send us out a copy prior to that, wouldn't you, Sarah?
Yeah, so what I can do is, I'm sorry, your December, it's 18th, not the 20th, the meeting, December 18th. So I just need to get this out for public review, posted on the website by November 17th. So I can make the edits, I can email it out to you individually, and then you can take a look at it. If you have any additional changes that you'd like to see put in before it goes out for 30-day, you can let me know. But there still will be the opportunity also to add in any minor edits or anything like that at the public hearing.
Yep. It's mainly to give the public, the ability to inspect it and see it.
So you put it out on the 17th for 30-day
30-day.
public notice.
Great,
But then we have a meeting on the 20th.
the 18th of,
Oh,
November.
You're
oh,
talking
November, okay,
Yep,
yes.
November. So she'll post it on Friday, but we meet on Monday. And then we meet again on the 18th.
With public review.
Yeah.
It could be part of our agenda for November, is what you're saying. November?
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to make changes to the public copy, but you could, I can put it on there if there's any additional comments that we need to think about. That's fine.
Well, would anyone like to make a motion to move the draft?
So you're approving for,
Hosting the public hearing for the
so we'll do
parks?
it in two, well, you can do it, I would do two motions. One would be to approve the distribution of the draft, and then a second motion would be to schedule the public hearing for December 18th at 6 PM.
Good. I'll move to approve the distribution of the draft.
I'll second that. All right, motion by Walsh, second by Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. I guess I'll make a motion to host a public hearing for the 5-year plan at the December 18th meeting.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Andrus, second by Walsh. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right. Anything else you need from us on that?
Not for the park plan, no?
Okay. All right, moving on, business before the Parks Commission, 9C, sledding party date.
I think we briefly talked about this, but I wanted to formalize it.
Yeah.
We had talked about the first Saturday in February.
February.
That's when we've had it the last 2 years, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And
The 4th,
Yeah, February 3rd. Is
4th,
this Saturday?
oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm in 2023, we don't want to go back there.
February 3rd?
Yep.
February 3rd,
What
and
were we
the,
competing with last year? Not that we're competing, but.
The
Super
Vasa,
Bowl.
wasn't it?
Or
Oh, it was.
It was
the Vasa ski.
Super Bowl 2 years ago, and it was
Okay.
Vasa last year.
Usually Vasa's always the same.
When the Icemen come
It's
with
not
us.
the same
Yeah, it is same
audience, though,
Saturday.
really.
right. And I think it was, we also were talking about maybe trying to reach out to the schools to get them to do something, but we need to give
Right,
them
you
enough
have to go
notice.
through admin. You have to go through,
I'll get with you.
yeah. You can't go to the individual schools. It has to be approved as a appropriate function.
Okay. So February 3rd, 2024, last year we did it 1 to 3. You're comfortable with 1 to 3?
Yeah, I think that was a
Okay.
good time.
Oh, we did 1 to 3?
Yeah,
2 hours.
yep.
2 hours.
It is the last day of the Traverse City Comedy Fest.
This coming year?
Different. Yeah, a little different crowd. Potentially.
Is that for the 2024?
The one other thing too we discussed was maybe getting a banner made
Yeah.
prior.
That's what I'm actually gonna do that, so that, and I think I'm gonna just do it as sledding party first Saturday in February,
Yeah.
1 to 3, and then, you know, check website for updated information. But then we can use it every year.
Yeah,
I think this is our 3rd annual, so it's been on the
Yeah.
same
It's-
weekend, same, you know.
It's time to invest in a banner.
That's what I'm thinking, and we'll put it up before the snow, you know, earlier, so
Yeah.
people are aware of it. So,
after Thanksgiving, potentially.
Yeah.
Do I have to have a sign permit for that?
I do what I want, no.
Are we the ones doing it?
No. Planning Commission. Yeah, you might want to find that out, too.
I don't think so, because it's interior to the park, but I will double check to make sure we don't break any rules.
It has happened.
Us breaking rules?
Not us, but, is the Vasa, it says February 7th.
So I will put that, so,
By February 7th, so it's not even Vasa weekend.
yeah, so I'll make sure to get that in the winter newsletter too, that goes out with the winter tax bills for the sledding party,
Yeah.
like we did last year,
Yep.
so. Okay,
Awesome. We don't need a,
you don't need a motion or
Okay.
anything.
all right. Any other comments for sledding party?
It was already in my calendar.
Okay. All right, moving on, public comment. Any of you guys have any questions?
Come on, you have something to say. We won't sign your paperwork unless you have.
Could you say what school you're from? Stand up and just say what school you're from?
Name, address.
No, you have to do that.
He's okay with that.
We're from the Traverse City Central High School. We just gotta do this for civics class. Gotta do 2 hours of it, or we gotta finish the meeting with notes.
Oh,
Wonderful.
okay.
Awesome.
And you can watch the recording
Yeah.
also.
Why did you select to attend this meeting?
I don't know, my parents kind of made me.
All right, go parents.
Gave me one and I went to it.
It's not because we're so cool.
I didn't really believe it out until I showed up.
Yeah. Hey,
But you learned a lot that you can take back with you.
Pretty informal.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Yeah.
You're
Thank you-
welcome
Thank you
anytime.
for partaking. So,
Ladies?
I'm not doing civic, I'm just here.
Wow, she supports. Very nice.
My name's Lacey, I'm also from Traverse City Central High School, getting credit for civics.
Wonderful.
yeah.
Thank you.
Do volunteer hours for civics? How many? 3. I had to do 20.
You had to volunteer for class credit?
Yeah,
Oh, civics, you're doing your civic duty.
What?
I had 20 hours.
I don't remember volunteering either.
We certainly did not do that one.
Anyway, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
All right. Upcoming meeting dates, November 20th, 2023. All right, meeting, or if there's nothing else, I guess we can adjourn the meeting, so.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn the meeting of
Second.
October 30th
I wasn't even done talking.
at 7:26.
All right. All right, meeting adjourned.